Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Ernie.
and this is Budget Nerds.
It was all in your mind.
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Well, today, Ernie, we're going to be talking about what I think is one of the most foundational principles of YNAB that isn't one of the four habits. Find the money first. That's what we're going to talk about. This is like
the money
core
first.
thing. Like, I almost think it could be one of the rules.
Well, technically, it is a part of Rule 3.
Okay.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah, it's kind of like a how-to about Rule 3. I think that's a good way to think of it. Yeah.
I think of it, and we'll get probably more into this, but as a proactive version of Rule 3.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. That's a good way to think of it. I should acknowledge real quick before every single comment is about this. My voice is weird. Sorry about that. I had the flu like 3 weeks ago and my voice is still weird. What Aaron tells me is I just need to stop talking for 2 days and it'll be fine. But who can do that? So.
I mean, that's something that I could easily do. Yeah, I'll just stop talking for a few days, get better, no problem.
Not me. That's not my thing. I mean, but when you have like little kids, it's like, how do you, they're going to get hit by a car. They're going to run into the street. I'm going to be like, I can't tell them stop.
Totally.
Yeah, whatever.
And I think maybe the other thing we should say is, hey, if we're rusty, we haven't done this in like a month.
I know, it's a little weird. It's been a little weird because we've had like vacation and like sickness and like dueling vacations. So
it's crazy. We were looking at the calendar this morning. March 12th is the last time we recorded, which just always blows my mind, right? In the episode world, it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But in our world, it's been like forever.
Well,
so
we're recording on April 15th, so it's been a month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird. But we're here. We're ready to go. Talk about find the money first. Yeah, I think this is interesting because I think it is an evolution of Rule 3 in a big way. So just so you know what we're talking about, Rule 3, roll with the punches. Previously, I think when Jesse sat down in that accounting firm and like conceived of this idea, I think he was really talking about overspending, like handling overspending. So like the overspending happens and then you actually deal with it instead of just like looking at it and being like, oh, overspent. I guess I'm a terrible person.
Yeah, you make an adjustment.
You make an adjustment. You actually
you
find
take money out of one
category
or a couple categories and you pay that overspent category back.
Yeah, so you find the money literally in your plan, in your categories, move money from one category to another. But this adds an extra word to find the money. Find the money first. Right? So what does that mean, Ernie? Like, just explain what that means.
You're making a change to that plan before you actually spend any money.
Okay. So it's like pre overspending, covering pre overspending, I guess.
Right. You're anticipating overspending and you're making a change. Now, whether you actually make that change in YNAB, right? You're staring at your app as you're standing in the store, moving money between categories, or maybe it's just in your head. You're making that change, but you're making adjustments before the money's actually spent. Because the idea here is you are ensuring that you have money to cover whatever you're buying.
Exactly. So the example I always give when I'm talking about this idea is my mom coming into town and me wanting to take her out to dinner. Okay. So, which has never happened. Like, this is not a thing that happens to me. Like first of all, my mom lives in town now. She's lived here for like 2.5 years. So my parents retired and moved up with us. But second, like she would never come into town unannounced. She's not that kind of mom. You know what I mean?
But it's the example, your go-to example.
Well, it's a really good example because it's like it's really nice, like because a lot of times people feel guilty if they change their plan, and I wanted to
Yep.
give an example where you never feel guilty about it. Okay, so
Okay.
here's the example. It's the end of the month. Your dining out category is like nothing, right? Which that's every month for me. Like 10 days before the end of the month, I'm out of dining out money, right? And then my mom comes into town unexpectedly, and I want to take her out to dinner because I want to honor my mom and be there with her. Okay, so I look at my dining out category and I see that it's got a whole lot of nothing in it. Am I gonna say, sorry, mom, we're gonna have to eat some grilled cheese at home? Or am I gonna, I mean, which she wouldn't care, but like, or I'm gonna say, I'm still gonna take you out. I'm gonna say, I'm still gonna take you out. So I look through my categories. I find some money. Maybe I see, oh, my clothing category has a good amount of money in it. I'm not going to need clothes this month. I'm going to go ahead and take some money from there. I move $50 from there to my dining out category, go out to eat, have a great time. Okay. So I didn't do anything wrong because I was thinking about my priorities, and I realized that this dinner with my mom was a higher priority than the clothing. And so my plan should change, right? But then the other way it could go is I just go out to eat anyway before I even look, and then I might have to. I might make the same choice, like take it from clothing, but it would feel different. It would feel like instead of it being a proactive thing, it's like something bad happened to me, and I'm having to deal with it now, right? And so there's just something really powerful that happens when you move the money ahead of time instead of waiting until after, right? So that's the example I always give.
Yeah, I haven't actually thought of it like that. It does give you extra confidence, extra clarity, and even just like, yeah, this is my priority. It just kind of you're able to plant that, flag in the ground a
Yeah.
little bit deeper with that priority now.
It also, well, the big thing too, it also gives you the opportunity to say no to that spending, right?
That's what I always think about.
Yeah.
You have that opportunity to change your mind.
Because you could look through and say, golly, there's actually not any categories that are less important to going out to eat right now. I mean, maybe like make it a little less noble, right? Like taking my mom out. Maybe it's just like, I'm tired. I want to cook. I want to get some Chinese takeout, right? Something like that. And you're looking through and you're like, well, I could take money from clothing, but I really wanted to buy some new shoes. I could take some money from my auto maintenance category, but like there's that rattling sound, so maybe I shouldn't do that. You're looking through your categories and you're like, nothing is more important or nothing is less important than getting some takeout right now. So I'm going to say no. I'm not going to get the takeout. And then you actually did a really powerful thing again, because what could have happened was you went and you got the takeout anyway without even looking at your categories and without even thinking about it. And then you would be forced to make a trade-off when you actually didn't want to, you know?
Yes. Yeah, you can't avoid the trade-off.
Exactly.
So I would rather make a trade-off with the clarity
Yeah.
on the front end. Because we've all had those moments, and probably for most of us budget nerds, it was pre-YNAB, where we would spend money and then later on realize, oh crap, I needed that money for something else.
Exactly.
And I think what that then does, maybe one time, no big deal, right? But if you do that a couple times, then you start developing this second guessing pattern, right? Oh, was I actually able to spend that money, or am I going to regret this later on?
Right.
And finding the money first solves that.
Yeah. It just makes it so really there's no regrets because you're making the decision proactively. And that's what YNAB's all about, is making trade-offs with your eyes wide open. And if you're going to spend money, you're making a trade-off. That's what you're doing, right? Because money is finite; it can only go so far. And if you don't look at it ahead of time, you're making the trade-off in the unknown. So give yourself the opportunity to say no, or give yourself the opportunity to decide what's less important to you, and go for it. And then there's also a third option there when you actually check your categories before you spend, which is, hey, you have the money. It's the plan's working. You know, you don't need to make an adjustment, and you could maybe enjoy that Chinese takeout even more because you don't have to worry about it messing anything else up. Right. So,
Yep. No second guessing. Buy it guilt-free, stress-free. I love it.
yeah.
Something I always tell folks when I'm talking through this concept of finding the money first, when I'm talking through it in workshops, is especially for the folks who have that financial goal, right? They're trying to pay off a lot of debt. They're trying to save for something. I always try to position this habit as like a way to accelerate the goal progress.
Nice.
Because you can just make sure that the spending is aligning with priorities, right? I only want to put it towards things that really matter. And then everything else that doesn't matter, that just means more money that can then go towards this debt payoff or the savings goal.
Right. I love
So
that.
it keeps your focus on that goal.
Yeah. And you know what? It can almost go the other way too. Like, let's say you have a goal that you're going after, paying off debt or saving for something you want to buy, whatever it is. But you do find yourself, as long as you're proactively finding the money first, and you find yourself, you are taking money from that goal an awful lot to do something else, right? Over time, if you do that consistently, you might realize, you know what? That goal isn't as important to me as I thought it was, right? And maybe you should make a more permanent change to your plan, in your targets or in just the way that you assign money regularly to reflect that, right? Because YNAB's all about discovering what your priorities are. And sometimes that takes some time and some like practical practice of the process, you know? And I think sometimes people might feel bad because a lot of those goals are really noble, like, oh, I'm going to pay off debt. But if it's not important to you, like, it's okay, you know, like, and sometimes I think you need to like actually see it in order to acknowledge that, you know, see your actual actions, you know. There's a little bit of there's a little bit of cheekiness here though, because sometimes it's like, overall my goal, I really do want to pay off debt or whatever it is, but in the moment I want to get Chinese takeout, right? So I still think that there is a little bit of just checking in with yourself about how you feel about moving that money, especially if you're doing it consistently.
Yep.
But sometimes you might check in with yourself, see how you feel about the fact that you've been making that trade-off consistently and say, you know what, maybe going out to eat more regularly is a higher priority to me than paying off debt. And just looking at that as objectively as you can and not judging yourself. But the thing is, if you did it another way, like if you just covered over spending after the fact, or if you didn't have a plan at all, you would never know that your priorities aren't really lining up with the way that you think they are, you know? So it just kind of reveals everything, I think.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up that point because my guess, and this is just a gut reaction, is that most people come into YNAB being over aggressive with their debt.
Probably. Yeah. Or whatever goal they have. Right.
Right. Or whatever goal that they have. And so then, you know, you practice this finding the money first, you start going through those steps enough times and you realize, oh, there's actually other things that I want.
Right.
So just like, let's dial back that debt payoff just a little bit. I mean, we're still being aggressive. We're going to get rid of it eventually, but I'm going to create some more space for these other things that matter to me in the meantime, right? Because I'm going to enjoy the journey, not just that end destination.
Yeah. And there might be times where you really go after it. You sprint for like 6 months or whatever. And then you freak out and you're like, okay, this is too much. You know? But I really do think that that's a thing. Like if you deprive yourself too much, you'll freak out and you'll like reject the whole plan. And I think you're actually going to make less progress overall if you do that. So kind of realizing what is actually important to me and what do my actions reveal that's important to me. And then once you acknowledge that, you can actually make a plan that reflects it better. And then you do that again and you do it again for the rest of
Yep.
your life, right? Because it's going to change too. That's the thing is like, yeah, you come into YNAB, you're all gung ho about something, but your motivation will change over time. And going through this process, this is like a daily thing, right? Because you spend money every single day. So if you're checking your categories before you spend and moving money if you need to before you spend, it's like a constant check-in with what is actually important to me, and that's going to end up helping you get to a more accurate plan over time rather than what you decided at the very beginning, you know.
Yeah, I mean, just personally, finding the money first has been rooted in different priorities
Mm-hmm.
for me. You know, when I first came to YNAB, paying off a lot of debt, but I think, and I didn't realize it at the time. Just looking back, I realized I was trying to get ahead.
Right.
I was trying, especially getting out of that paycheck to paycheck cycle. And so I don't even know how long, and I've told this story a number of times on Budget Nerds, but this went on for a number of years, I think, where I would get paid and then that paycheck part of it would go backwards, right? I would cover the categories
right
that needed the money. And I just kept in that cycle month after month after month until finally I realized, and I don't know what made me wake up, but I realized I have to stop this putting paycheck backwards thing.
Yes, it's like
right?
the opposite of Rule 4, right?
Yes, I want my paycheck to 100% always go forward. And so we drew a line in the sand and just said, if we don't have the money there, where are we going to pull it from? You know, that was our first option, right? Finding the money first. Mm-hmm. And then if we didn't like any of those trade-offs, if we didn't want to move money or there just wasn't money to move, then we couldn't buy that thing. Even if it meant waiting 1 day or 2 days until the money actually arrived.
Right.
I mean, I remember thinking
there's an arbitrary line there, right? It's because it is arbitrary, but like there's something about the principle of it that matters, you know?
Right. And that's what I wanted to get in the habit of doing, of just like, nope, I'm ensuring that we have that money present right now. Oh, right. So then I was always crystal clear on the priorities today. And it worked. Things started changing then. Money started going 100% forward. And that's when the ball really started rolling.
Man, that's a huge part. I never really thought about it that way, where finding the money first can make Rule 4, getting a month ahead and living on last month's income, that idea of just taking your paycheck and putting it more toward the future goals, it can make that easier because you don't need to use your paycheck to clean up a mess from before, right? All this overspending from before.
Yep.
And you might have made a different decision if you had checked your plan ahead of time. Because if you look and you see, there's no categories that I can take this money from, everything's too important. And you could even say in your head, like, okay, I'm going to take it from next paycheck. But if you do that, you're going to end up getting behind instead of getting ahead, right?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's juicy right there. I like that.
The funny thing is too, is a lot of times I realized I don't actually want to buy that thing. Like if I just put a little bit of space between, seeing the thing and buying the thing, I realized it would just fade. That desire to purchase would fade.
Sometimes you just like really get riled up about something and then you're like, you know what, that isn't really that big a deal.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just let it go. For anything, I feel like it's maybe if you feel like you have an overspending problem, especially, just like implement like, okay, if it's over $50, I'm going to wait 1 day, like as a rule. It might help you just kind of discover what you really want, because you just got to give it some thought,
Well, the overspending problem, that's another issue I address in workshops often. How do I prevent overspending? It happens all the time to me. Find the money first. Try to get into that habit. Yeah. I think that can be really
also
helpful. The
habit of doing it, like it makes you more aware of your plan overall. I think that a big part of YNAB is just being in it every day. And so we do that a lot with the accounts side, like with entering transactions, categorizing, approving imports, stuff like that. Like a lot of time is spent in the accounts, but it can be easy to not spend a lot of time in the categories in the plan. And I think if you make it a principle that before you spend, I'm just going to look, even if I know in my head, like there's money there, I'm just going to look, you'll end up like looking at other categories and just kind of just noticing things that are happening in your plan, and your categories will kind of start to become a part of you, you know?
Yep.
So it's just great for awareness overall too.
Here's another example. I mentioned that the reason for using Find the Money First has changed over the years. I still implement this habit a lot. And primarily for me, it's at the end of the month in the groceries category.
Oh yeah.
We're always running on fumes and we have to buy groceries for that next week, right? Before we get
it's like one
to
of
the
those
end
weird
of the month.
like timing things where it's like I go grocery shopping on Monday and the Monday falls on the 31st of the month. You
Yeah.
know? that I might just like pop it over the next month. But yeah, it's
And there's a
little things
lot
like
of
that.
times where I'm just like, oh, there's $50. I have to spend, anywhere between 150 and 200. And I spend it. I don't even think about it. And then I go back into YNAB after spending the money and I make the corrections.
Mm-hmm.
But some of those times, I feel that pain of having to move money from multiple categories to cover the groceries.
Right.
Right?
Especially when it's after the fact, right?
When it's after the fact. But when I'm really on my YNAB game, I'm looking at all my categories before I even go to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
I see that I have $50 in groceries. So I'm like, okay, here's my range of spending. This means I would have to take from this category, that category, and this category, right? I just kind of draw it up in my mind. And then I just see how that feels. And then that feeling it dictates what that shopping experience is going to be like.
Right.
Is it going to be more rice and beans, or am I just going to be like, no, I'm fine taking money from those other categories. Let's just buy whatever I want at the grocery store for this last week of the month.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Because the thing is, I feel like you can easily be like, well, it's groceries. I have to spend it. I have to buy groceries. Like obviously. Right. So I'm just going to spend whatever and deal with it later. But that's not really true. Like groceries is a spectrum. Like you can make a meal plan that is, cheaper stuff, or maybe you don't get some of the fancier things you want. It's there's like groceries is a necessity, but it's still a spectrum,
Yeah. I mean, I have this whole list of meals,
right?
Reppy meals. That's the name of the file.
I love it.
And I know
meals.
the go-to cheap ones, right? I can feed the family for $5, for $7.
Okay.
And then if it's been a month where we've had to roll with the punches quite a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels like we're not saving as maybe much as I was hoping to, and I look at this ahead of time, we're going to be eating a lot of those $5, $7 meals, right? We're going to go really cheap. Boys, you're not going to be getting a ton of snacks.
Right.
No goldfish. Definitely no goldfish.
I noticed, because I went to we only buy goldfish when we travel, and we traveled recently, and I went and I bought some goldfish, $7.50 for a carton of goldfish, and the carton is smaller than it used to be. Like
probably,
I don't know the ounces, but like they made it smaller. So
the goldfish are probably smaller too.
I know, man. It's just it's not like good old days, It's when I was a kid and the goldfish was like giant. Actually, I don't even know if they had goldfish when I was a kid. Anyway, whatever.
But yeah, when I'm on my YNAB best, I'm making those trade-offs before I even set foot in the grocery store for the last shopping trip of the month.
Yeah.
And then when it all shakes out at the end, I feel really good about things. Right. When I actually complete the shopping, and then when I go home, because a lot of times for me, I'm not actually moving the money ahead of time. I'm just in my mind, I'm making that trade-off.
Right.
And then I actually do the movement to the money when it's all said and done. But when I do end up making that, there's no guilt. I don't feel bad about anything because I processed this all on the front side of the spending.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's not just not necessarily actually moving the money. It's just making a plan ahead of time of how you're going to handle that overspending because you know it's happening, right?
Yep.
And you might have made the same decisions after the fact, but the difference is that you're being forced to make those decisions instead of like freely making those decisions. You know?
Yeah. And when I'm freely making decisions, man, I feel a heck of a lot better about things.
Yeah, of course you do because you have more agency. You know. It's huge. And there's other calculations that go into this too. I mean, you might be like, you mentioned, you've had to roll with punches a lot and you haven't been able to save or put some money towards some goals as much. But it might be like, you know what? We had a lot of those cheat meals and the boys are complaining a lot, the past couple of weeks, you know, and I kind of feeling generous. Like, yeah, I think I want to, you know, do some nicer meals this week, you know, cause it might depend on what it's been like the past couple of weeks too. So it's not necessarily like even what's going on with the money, but what's going on with your family. And so, you know, all of that, all those things go into it, you know?
Yes.
And that changes the question of, do I value my clothing category as much as I did before, you know, compared to groceries? So it's not just like, we're not like robots where we're like, my main goal is paying off debt. So therefore no groceries, no eating. You know what I mean? Like,
and for those of you that are listening to the podcast, Ben is doing the robot motion over and over. So hop over to YouTube just to see that.
I mean, it's not like that kind of like your priorities change like day to day, you know?
Yeah.
And your money should reflect that. So, and that's why I love YNAB, our method is so focused on like the day to day instead of like getting a pie chart at the end of the month and seeing how you did. You know, it's like living and breathing and actually changing the plan as you go, you know, but you can't do that unless you look at it before spending and you make changes in the moment rather than checking at the end, you know.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, this is so stupid. Like, I just want to live my life. I don't want to look at
not
YNAB
the budget nerds, surely.
Not the budget nerds, but maybe this was their attitude coming in, and I totally get it. Like, I don't want to have to check YNAB before I actually spend money. Like, let me just be an adult and spend it the way I want to.
Like, you're already way ahead of most people if you're just like, okay, I'm going to deal with it afterwards. Better like chill out a little bit.
But to your point, this isn't about being responsible or trying to introduce another chore or be more adult-like. This is about priorities.
Yeah.
That's our main goal here, is to make sure that you can joyfully spend and save your money however you want to. And so just checking in on those priorities from time to time, making sure everything's lined up.
Yeah. One thing I want to say, because I hear this a lot, where people are like, you know, I feel like I'm just tracking really with YNAB. You know what I mean? Like all I'm really doing is tracking my spending, because at the end of the month, like there's all this overspending and I just kind of I kind of fix it. You know what I mean? And you feel like you're missing some of the magic of YNAB. Like you go on the subreddit or you go on the fans group or, you know, and you're like, everybody's freaking out and I'm not feeling it. You know, I'm not feeling the YNAB magic. Like what's going on? Because I feel like I'm just kind of doing whatever I want and then just kind of making it work in YNAB. This is the solution to that problem.
Absolutely. 100%.
Just so let's go over like the exact process. Okay. You're about to spend money on something discretionary. You open up your phone, you look at the category that's related to it. See if you have money for it. If you have money for it, spend it. If you don't have money for it, 2 options. Don't spend the money or find the money from another category first before you spend. And then that's not tracking. That's not just tracking. That's proactive money management and proactive feeling your priorities. And that's when a lot of the YNAB magic really starts to happen. So if you're feeling a little dull, like try this.
Yeah, once you find it, then there's that one last step is the actual trade-off.
Yes.
Like, what do you want?
Yeah, what do you want? What do you want?
And then there's no
Notebook?
wrong answer. That's the great thing.
What's that rom-com? You know rom-coms, Ernie. You're a rom-com guy.
I do.
What's the one where like the guys, I think it's like Ryan Gosling or something, he's like, what do you want? What do you want? And the girl's like, it's not that simple. It's not that simple. You know what I'm talking about? Is that the Notebook? Or,
I don't. I'm more old school rom-coms like You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle.
I think it's the Notebook. Is that Ryan Gosling? What is that guy? Who's that guy? It's the Notebook. Who's in the Notebook? The guy in the Notebook actor. Yeah, it's Ryan Gosling. Yeah, so Ryan Gosling is talking to Rachel McAdams, and he's like, what do you want? And she's like, it's not that simple. I literally don't even know what was going on in that scene, but I just think about that all the time because that's like what YNAB is. It's like, what do you want?
Okay, that's now what I'm going to hear in my head every time I'm staring at YNAB making those trade-offs.
Oh man, somebody will tell me exactly what was going on in that scene and what it was. It's like the climax of the movie, I think. Anyways, what do you want? I think about that a lot.
We have officially gone off the rails with this episode.
We should probably end it there. We can do some YNAB wins. Or is there anything else you want to say?
No, that's all I wanted to say. I'm really curious what the community has to say.
Yes.
Your experience with finding the money first. Would love to hear those stories. Would love to hear the mindset shifts that happened. But yeah, let's get into a couple wins and then we'll call it an episode.
All right. All right, let's do some YNAB wins. But before we do, I wanted to mention all of this whole idea comes from a blog that Dave wrote like a 1,000 million years ago, back in like 2017, which is just a lost time, the before times. You know what I mean?
And for those that don't know, Dave is another one of the teachers around here at YNAB.
Yeah. The blog is called Find the Money First, or quote, Zen and the Art of Eating a Motorcycle. Okay. And Dave talks about how he ate part of his motorcycle one night, and I'll just leave it at that. If you just Google Find the Money First YNAB, you'll find it right away. But we'll put a link in the description, or try to. Ernie's currently making a note to leave this description. So that's what he's
Yep.
All right, let's go.
We're gonna link up to it.
Let's get to the YNAB wins.
All right, my win comes from Katie in Wisconsin, so a fellow Wisconsinite. And this was an email probably sent a year ago. We're so behind. But good news, our next episode, we're going to be doing another wins mega episode.
Should we just not stop until we've done them all?
Kind of like what Jesse does on his podcast, where he just goes through all the emails until they're
It's gonna be
finished.
like a 3-hour episode where we don't care. We're just doing it.
Oh boy, what do we got here? I mean, we're looking at
we got our spreadsheet
50.
Open. How many we got? Count 58.
40 or 50.
58, not including the 2 that we're doing today. So that's...
we could do it if we don't offer commentary, which folks are probably like, yep, go ahead.
That could
just
work.
Read them.
That could work. Yeah. And maybe we could just and maybe the longer ones we could summarize. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, look forward to that Mega Wins episode. Yeah. All right, so back to Katie from Wisconsin. This past Saturday morning, I walked by my 13-year-old son's room, said good morning, and asked him what he was up to since he was inevitably staring at his phone. Mm-hmm. I assumed he was gaming or texting with friends. He had a big smile on his face and he said, I'm checking my YNAB.
Oh, nice. I bet he was so happy to be like, I'm doing something productive, Mom.
I've invited my kids to YNAB, but hadn't thought they took to it. I was so shocked and so proud. It happened to be the first of the month, so his savings account interest hit that morning. He couldn't wait to assign it to his spend and save categories. If it weren't for YNAB together, he wouldn't be aware of his money at all. I think he might have been a budget nerd, or I think we might have a budget nerd in the making. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
If he's smiling at his phone while he's looking at YNAB,
just staring at YNAB.
Love it. You gotta love it.
Thanks, Ernie and Ben and the YNAB team, for making budgeting cool and exciting for teens. I wish we all could have learned the 4 rules at 13. Amen. Budget nerd to the core. Katie.
I also love that he said, I'm checking my YNAB, not like I'm checking my budget or I'm checking my money. Like, I'm checking my YNAB. Like,
he doesn't even have any of that
he doesn't have all his
old,
baggage.
worn out budgeting advice. Like, he's just adopted the new YNAB mindset.
Oh, man, there's gonna be a whole generation of just like pure budget nerds. No baggage, nothing. Like, there's nothing complicated. That's not true, but it's great. Well, it's great.
Katie, congratulations. That is a fantastic win. I know that feels great when your kids take to, something that you put out there, just kind of lightly dropping it and, finally does take.
It's a good thing.
And that's fantastic. And congratulations to you as well. I mean, thank you for sharing YNAB with them and using YNAB together. That's excellent.
Good mom right there, clearly. All right. I got one from Michael Berry 1276. I guess this was in a live event. Let me see. This was on oh my gosh, it's so loud. Sorry, I opened a
I heard
you heard that?
Yes.
I opened one. We're very loud. Okay, it's on the applying YNAB principles outside the budget. This was 9 months ago. Wrote in with a short win. I'm currently unemployed. In the UK, we have low income benefits that are actually pretty decent. I'm more than a month ahead on my halfway emergency fund, which makes me feel so much more secure. Oh, love to see that. So unemployed, but still feeling okay with a little bit of benefits and also some savings that you have. So love to see that.
That's huge.
It's huge. It's huge. Cool. Well, if you have a YNAB win, you can let us know in the comments. We will put it at the bottom of a 58 YNAB win list and might read it in a year or two. Or if you want to send us an email at budgetnerds@ynab.com.
All right, folks. Thanks for sticking around for another episode. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. See you.
Until then, happy YNABing.
Happy YNABing.